In this video, we're going to talk about a bunch of products that I sell in my product store at trulyholistic.net/products/. And they're currently products that we have in stock, meaning they're already made. For the most part, when it comes to all the tensor technology, light technology products that we make at Truly Holistic, they are made to order because they are made by me. Truly Holistic is a representation of one individual, one being, one soul, and that is me. Whether that's through the session work that we do, which is, of course, healing session work, reality coaching session work, spinal alignment, posture correction sessions that we do as well, but also all the products that I make. So we're going to look at a few products now that I have right in front of me and that we have in stock right now. And a lot of them are currently on my product store that you can go and check out, but some of them are not on there. Okay, and so we're going to go through that now. I'm also going to showcase the product in alignment with what I call our ascension map. Now, the ascension map, for anybody that is unaware of, is a map of your infinite consciousness. Your nature is an infinite soul consciousness. We have a map. We have all of that mapped out, right? So this whole thing of our spiritual process, which is referred to as our ascension, is completely mapped out and understood here at Truly Holistic, right? So whether it's the session work, the products, they all align with this ascension map, because the whole reason here is to fulfill our original soul's purpose, and that is what is defined as ascension. And we know that the path of providing this fulfillment, the success of ascension, is exactly the same path that also provides everything to the body to maintain or regain wellness and vitality. It's not a different path, because it's not about the work we do on our soul or spirit and the work that we do in the body. It's not two separate entities, right? The body is a vehicle that is enabling what you infinitely and authentically are, because really the body is something we use. It's not what we are. Okay. So we're using this as an interface, right? To take what we are in a formless commodity, formless frequencies, and come here to transform it, right? To take what is formless and put it into form, to create reality. We're not here to come here and experience reality by itself, even though that is part of the deal. We come here to forge reality, and when that reality is placed into form, we then experience that with the hope to convert that experience into wisdom, to give it all meaning. Okay, because when we're in a formless state, we are bound and connected to an infinite nature, but we come here to give it meaning. Okay, so these products are essential because they are facilitating more of what you are, so it can be present and represented here, which enforces and then allows that fulfillment of why we're here, right? To ascend, but also to provide the energy, provide the flow, all the tools the body then utilizes to keep it well. Okay, because the body knows what to do. It just needs the materials to do it. Like someone that's going to build your fence, right? They're very good at building a fence, but that builder cannot build your fence if it doesn't have the timber and the tools to build it, right? So it's very much that same way of perceiving that. So let's start off with the first product, and that is our light dowsing rods that we make, right? Which is simply made out of brass. Okay, so it's brass rod and brass tubing. So the brass tubing is the handle, right? So that gives it a nice swivel, right? Okay. And for a long time, we wanted to make dowsing rods at Truly Holistic, but I didn't want to just make dowsing rods like somebody else. What I pride myself at Truly Holistic, we want to bring something that's unique, something that is, again, in alignment with what we are authentically and infinitely, and the reason why we're here. Okay, it's all about that. Okay, so what we made these products with, yes, with measurements, right, which is called in the tensor technology community a qubit, okay, which I find really interesting in itself, because bit means a unit of information, and then Cu is actually what copper is on the periodic table of the elements, and most of the products are made of copper that we utilize. Now, and obviously when we pronounce Q, it's like a letter Q, and that then can be referenced as quantum, which what these products facilitate is quantum energy, because that's what you are in your authentic state as a soul consciousness, as light, as energy. You come from the quantum, right? Quantum literally means light. Okay, so we measure these. So the rod part, the tube, even the little beads that we've got here, which are made out of crystals, right? The black is shungite, the gold is gold mica crystal powder, are all anchors, right, to bring through more of that quantum-based energy. Okay. Now, so we've got something that you can use as a discernment to gain answers from your guides, from yourself as a soul consciousness, your expansive aspect of yourself, right? And you start that and you get a yes answer. And of course, that's going out. And then my no answer is when it goes in. Now, it might be when you connect with your soul, your yes might be when they come in and no go out. You've got to establish that connection. Now, the thing about these are not just a discernment tool, they're a healing tool, right? Because they facilitate many energetics. In fact, they facilitate 6 qubits, 6 energetics that either come through using the crystal powder within the beads that as an anchor that bring and facilitate those energetics, or through the brass rod and the brass tube. So let's just jump straight to, so here's the ascension map. So in the ascension map here, the dowsing rods facilitate what you can see is the infinite qubit. You can see the word infinite there. You can see the word generational. It also brings through that. It also brings through the Eye of Agamotto. So those 3, but also, which for me are more based on a form of expression they facilitate while you're here. The other energetics it brings is the earth, which is the activation, the earth element, the air element, which is the gateway qubit, and also the water element, which is the ascension qubit, right, that you can see at the roots of the tree. Now, isn't it fascinating that your infinite nature is depicted as a tree, right? Okay. I often tell my clients that we are literally walking trees. Okay. You know, we talk about the importance of grounding, right? Well, yes. Well, what's a physical embodiment in that perceived physical world of grounding and being rooted into the ground? A tree, of course. Now, you'll see also depictions of DNA on there, because when we are talking about these energetics that we are bringing through, right? I'm just going to move that. When we are talking about energetics, this is what we perceive and how we're being taught at a mind thought mentality way of perceiving is genetics. Okay. So a lot of people talk about, hey, we've got, you know, DNA that's unlocked. We've got junk DNA, right? Which is really DNA that science cannot comprehend and understand, and is they can see that's not being utilized or accessed. Now, that is potential that exists within ourselves, because the quantum exists within. It's not around us or above us, it's within us, right? We are the constant in our reality, right? There's not one moment that we exist reality without ourselves, right? We are the central constant, right? So to be aware of how we facilitate what we are and also apply what we are is essential to everything, to understanding everything, right? To know the cause to the effects, whether those effects are symptoms of what we would consider an illness or a health problem, or just our reality, you know, falling apart, right? We want to know why. Okay. Center focus always has to come back to us. Okay. Now, so when you look at that DNA, right? We've said energetics, right? We express our energetics, which these tools are unlocking and facilitating more of our potential, right? So therefore, it's unlocking that genetic potential. right? We're unlocking our DNA, activating our DNA. And when you look at, generally what DNA looks like, right? It's a helical structure, right? Which is a vortex. And vortex is the form of geometry of flow. And we'll get to that in a minute. I've got an illustration I'll show you. But what's inside the DNA is the nucleotides we can simply see as the coding, right? So that helical structure, vortex, is a carrier wave that is bringing forth the coding, right? The energetics. So all these products I'm going to show you now, including the dowsing rods we just showed, are heart-based products, quantum-based tools. Why? Because the heart is what facilitates what you are, that originates from the quantum, to be present and represented through this interface we call the body and beyond. Okay, so literally it's the carrier wave bringing forth our energetics. It's exactly the same way as how DNA works, because it's the same thing. It's not different, it's the same thing. Okay, so when you're using these products that we bring at Truly Holistic, this is what they're doing. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Got a few to pick from. Umming and ahhing which one we should do next. Now this one. This is a beautiful looking tool because it's a double twisted tensor ring. Okay. Most of the tensor products that we use for a long time, as you'll see here, this is the water ring. I'll see if I can zoom on it. So that's a single twist ring. You can see the difference here, right? It's a double twist, right? Where we've put the wire through the drill to twist it, and then we take it out there, and then we twist it again, and that's what you get, right? Now, what we've noticed with the double twist, and we don't apply that to every energetic, because again, there's a purpose or reason of what energetic we use the double twist with, and I'm going to explain that now. The difference between this single twist, as I say, a tensor ring is a physical anchor to bring through etheric energetics, and those etheric energetics are what originate from the quantum, right? That exists within, that you're levitating from within up to the surface, and the surface is the heart to be present through and represented through you and beyond. Because what happens when we bring that through the heart, our field, which is really what we are, not the body, as I told you before, the body's a vehicle we utilize. But when we facilitate more of ourselves here, that our auric field, our electromagnetic field expands out. That's what you are. And as it expands out, it has an ability to shift and change things that support you. Okay, so when we have a tensor ring like that, it becomes a column of light, right? So what happens is there's a 0 point right in the middle of that ring, because a lot of people, when they see these products, they go, oh yeah, copper's great and light. The magic, the uniqueness of this technology is not about the copper. It's not about actually the physical thing. We use this physical thing that we cut to a specific measurement, as I say, a cubit measurement, that then allows this tensor field, right, which is a vortex, to come through the space that you don't see anything. You got to realize that our eyes only see 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum of light, meaning we don't even see close to 1% of reality with our own eyes. But we are literally and consistently told that seeing is believing, because that's how we were conditioned, which means we get locked into that 0.0035% of living. That's confinement, that's limitation, that's control. Now, what we found at Truly Holistic is the sense that allows us to connect to the rest of the 99.9965% of reality is through what we feel. And thank God it is, because our first discernment of life and our experience of life is what is felt. Okay, it's something that's ever present. It doesn't arrive, it's there. That's why when people go about, gut instinct, it's there. It doesn't require time to be there because it's ever present. Okay, it's what you are, right? What's the domain of the heart? The heart facilitates what you are, and the domain of the heart's not thinking, it's feeling. It's what you feel. But we get conditioned to be stuck up here, which gets us bound to this limited way of living, because this is what told us seeing is believing, which is obviously greatly flawed. That limits us, right? So there is energy coming through here that we can feel, but we can't see it. Right? Okay. So that's a single one, right? So it creates a column, right? From either way. So if I put it like that, that light, those energetics coming out that way from a 0 point in the middle and coming out that way too. Right? Now, when you get the double twisted ring, it still creates that column of light, but also what it does, it spits out the energy, spit. So it's got a broadcasting ability when we put it in a double twist. Okay, it's still an anchor, physical anchor to bring through those energetics, but it has a broadcasting ability. It's not just a column, it can broadcast out. Okay, so a lot of the times, a lot of the products that we do with the double twist is cut with the infinite qubit. You can see on there, right? The word infinite on there. That qubit measurement, right? It's connecting to your infinite nature. So it's very much connected to the heart. But if we want a broadcasting tool, we want it to broadcast out to infinitely, right? There's a lot of broadcasting tools out there in tensor technology. You know, a guy goes out 1 or 2 miles or whatever. But that wasn't enough for me. When I looked at the possibility that, hey, can we have a broadcasting tool that goes beyond that measure we call distance? Because that's what it is. It's a measurement, like time. Time's a measurement. It limits our capacity to understand our reality and to facilitate what we are here, which allows our ascension to happen. Right? It's a human thing that the mind gave us, right? Because the mind's all about limiting our understanding of reality, right? We chase the effect without knowing the cause, right? So when I looked at the possibility from the heart, hey, is there a qubit measure that allows to bypass those measurements we know as distance and even time? And there was infinite, and we started making products with it. We've got products that use the single wire, but with this one, we use the double twist. So this is great to use as a broadcasting tool, right? We used to have a tool called the Sun Ring, and I'm still very open. I still have that on my products, still the Sun Ring, but I get that from Canada because that's where that's made. But generally for the people in the Southern Hemisphere that's close to me, I recommend this product because this is something I make, right? So they don't have to get it shipped from Canada. But for me, you know, its broadcasting abilities is far more expansive than the Sun Ring now. Right, so we utilize this one. So we have 2 or 3 of these currently in stock at the moment, currently made, and they're wonderful products. The double twisted, you can also go and check it out on my website, which is called the Double Twisted Infinite Ring, and we make it to this size, and we also make it to a bigger size, double the size of this one too, if you want a bigger size. So you can go and check that out, but we do have some in stock currently. So let's go to that single ring I showed you before. This is probably one of the most common rings or products that we sell because it's very inexpensive for what it is and what it does for you. This is called the water ring. Now, but why? Because it has an effect on water. Why? Because the qubit measure that we use, right? The measurement that once we twist the wire and we cut it to and then we braze it together to create a closed loop or circle, is using the water element, which is the ascension qubit. So if I bring up this, it's down there at the root of the tree, right? Water ascension qubit that we utilize first. Now, of course, you can utilize this for yourself as well, because remember, this tree showcases the information of you as a soul consciousness, but you got to remember every other physical thing that shows itself in this reality, including water, is connected to this as well, right? Because it's a consciousness in its original form, right? In its original state, I should say, formless. Now, so a lot of people buy this to put on their water bottle, right? Or, you know, just to restructure any form of water. If they get a whole lot of water in a 20-liter container, then you can place this underneath that, right? To restructure that water to its original state, right? And what it will do, it will remove all memory within the water. Now, you know, water that's recycled, right? It goes through a plant to remove all contaminants out of the water so it can be put back into a water supply. It may take out most of the physical substance that shouldn't be in the water, but the water still holds the memory of all those contaminants within the water. And when you drink that water, you take that on. Okay, you got to realize the body, you know, for example, if the body accumulates with substances in the body, we tend to look at, oh, you know, it's getting more fat cells, it's holding on to the contaminants, the things that we have in our food. But it also holds on to emotions, it holds on to memories, it holds on to traumas, all these sorts of things that we might not bind to a physical thing. But you got to realize that, you know, the way we perceive physical reality is a lot of times based on a limited way of perceiving reality, right? Everything's energy. So people buy this, and I always say, hey, when you buy this ring, before you go to bed at night, pour 2 glasses of water. Could be any water, tap water, filtered water, even spring water, right? And you place this into one of those glasses of water, right? Leave it overnight. In the morning, you try that water after, you know, a good 8 hours or whatever of it restructuring. And you'll notice a massive difference. Massive difference in regards to its texture is the big one, the taste, and its hydration. You'll notice the difference, right? And everyone that buys it notices the difference. Just everyone. It's a wonderful product. And again, we've got about 4 or 5 of them in stock already made. And we do have a special where you can buy, and you get a discount for buying a whole bunch, like 6 of them. And I always say it's great to do that because you buy them and you hand them out to your friends, hand them out to your family, tell them what to do with it. And again, they'll come back and they'll go, wow, this is amazing, right? What a great gift, right? Because the body is mainly made up of water, right? Because going back to this, you are a consciousness at your core, and the root original structure, we could call that source of your soul consciousness, is that water element. So it's so important. Right? Now, what I'm going to also go to, which I'm going to show you the importance of, we were talking about before, vortex, right? Which is the form of geometry of flow. And of course, you can see the illustration of water, right? This is how water moves. But when we look at water in nature, right, in a stream, in a river, it doesn't just move like that. It's vortexing, right? As it moves, that's what gives it flow, right? And when it vortexes, and if you look down the barrel, right, like you're looking at me now, right, in the camera, it looks like a spiral. Now, if the water's moving that way, but I'm looking from the side, it's a waveform, right? So again, what I said about DNA, right? Same thing, right? Flow is the carrier wave of energy, okay? So when water moves, and there's a saying, right? Water always chooses the path of least resistance, right? Because why? It prioritizes flow. It knows that's what it is. It's a flow of energy. And humans tend to forget this, right? So because when we live out of mind, thought, mentality, this is how we're conditioned to perceive and process our life. We become our ultimate obstruction and blockage to our ability to go with the flow or be in the flow, which compromises us because we then create a state for our body to accumulate and build up stuff that becomes toxicity and illness, right? Our natural state, as it says on here, state of being, which is literally our ability to go with the flow, which is to feel our way, allow our heart to lead us, not think. But we're not supposed to be thinkers. But we get heralded as thinkers, right? Literally, everybody believes to be intelligent is your ability to think, right? But that's just ego because we just learn all these big fancy words without substance to it and understanding and knowing what it actually means and what the importance of it. So it's kind of maddening, but so I want to look at the top left here, right? So with that vortex, what it creates is 2 forces called centripetal forces. And getting a few comments from people coming through already. And as you can see there, right, the centrifugal forces move things out. Centripetal force moves things in. So when the water, you'll notice the water in nature, right? When it flows more, right? So it's got a path of least resistance. The water's cleaner. It's more vital, right? There was a guy called Victor Schellberg, an Austrian, that did so much study many decades ago in nature, and particularly how water moves and flows, and all the animals that flow through the water, like a fish, and effortlessly moving against the current, right? Like a salmon, right? And its ability, and it would move like that, like a snake, right? Again, that's that waveform, that vortex, right? So this ability of a vortex. So when it moves, right, and it goes on that path of least resistance, it's more well and vital, the water. Now, when water loses its flow, right, it gets dirty and smelly. Right? So when we're mind, thought, mentality driven, right, mind oriented, we've lost our ability to go with the flow. That's what we get like. Dirty and smelly, right? Because we've built up all this toxic material. Because we've lost that process that is a self-regulating process that keeps us clean and detoxified. Right? So, you'll see a lot, on my social media platforms here on YouTube. I'm always talking about the importance of our natural state. Well, this is why. When we learn to provide our natural state, which is to get the heart open, to lead ourselves through heart feel knowing, not mind thought mentality, we provide a self-regulating process, not needing acts of doing to provide, by the way. Just through living how we're supposed to live, our body keeps itself clean. We don't have to do that, action that. It just does it naturally. Right? A lot more simplified way of providing it. Okay, and what happens when we provide a natural state? We facilitate everything we are, right? Everything we are, which is that. And these products are merely training wheels to get you there. Right? So water ring, great little ring, as I say, very inexpensive, does a number of great things for yourself, but also water that you're drinking, bathing in, all these sorts of things. Wonderful product. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And the next one we are going to go to is this one. Again, very inexpensive, great product. This incorporates a tensor technology, right? It's got the tensor ring on the outside, but also we've got gold microcrystal powder in here encapsulated in resin. This is called a cell phone tab, or a little tab that we make. Now, this is also what we call the cell tab plus the sonic tab, right? So now the sonic tab or sonic qubit, this is a relatively new energetic, is relevant to the medium of sound, right? Because sonic means sound, right? So we've for a while made products for cell phones, right? And I'll get my cell phone and show it, right? And I'll put it on the back, right? We've got a little bit of lapis lazuli crystal powder in that one. And you put it on your phone, because the phone, right, is the magic of your phone these days, right, is because of Wi-Fi, right? We utilize it for social media platforms. We're going to YouTube. We're using Wi-Fi all the time, right? That's the magic of it. And what I laugh about it is, the people that are so bound to everything, seeing, believing, right? Everything that's physical, but really through their iPhone, they're relying on something that's unseen, which is Wi-Fi, right? A little bit of a joke, but so it's bringing in this Wi-Fi. It's bringing in energy we call discordant energy, right? Which is energy that does not work with the body. Why doesn't it work with the body? Is because it's a technology that was created by a human, but more importantly, a human that was mind-oriented, right? Because we are not mind, thought, mentality. We are heart, feel, knowing, right? So any form of technology that the human brought into reality, right? Because we're manifestors, we create reality. But it came from a seed or an idea or concept that came from mind, thought, mentality, not heart, feel, knowing. So therefore, we're going to create a technology that gives off energy that does not align with your energy signature, which we call a self. Okay. So when you get a product like that, and you can put it, I don't know, people that put it on their laptops, You put it on the iPads, you can put it on your computer, and you place it on there, right? It comes with double-sided tape, so you can stick it on there. It then shifts all that field Wi-Fi that's going through that interface, like that is the body, right? And we call the body an interface. It's shifting it into a form that aligns with your energy signature, right? So therefore, this discordant field is no longer discordant field because we're shifting it in to a heart field knowing form of energy that aligns with your own energy signature. So it's wonderful for that. It doesn't overheat the phone when you're utilizing, you're calling people and stuff like that. And you can have it close to you and, know that you're safe, right? Know that it's because when I go to expos and stuff like that, and we do muscle testing with all the products, and, I pull down on somebody's arm to, topple their balance, and then I give them one of these products, and then we do the same thing. And I put all my weight down on them, and I can't topple their balance. Well, why is that? Because the products are now expanding their field, bringing through more of their own energy signature, which mitigates and pushes off all this discordant field. Now, often I'll show them, then I'll say, hey, give me your phone. And I put their phone close to their body, right, in their energy field, and it removes all the structuring, so therefore they lose all their balance again. But when you get one of these on the phone, then you will always remain strong. Your field will remain expansive. So it's very much, in this day and age that we live, these products are essential, right? Now, the added ring, which, as I say, brings through the sonic energetics, is more about enhancing the medicinal value of sound, and particularly music. And most people these days are playing music through their phones, right? For example, Spotify. And then quite often they'll connect this to like a Bluetooth speaker or something like that. Now, this will carry that transmuted, beneficial, high potential sound frequency or energy to the Bluetooth speaker as well when you put it on your phone. So it's wonderful. So we added them together. Of course, you can just get the cell phone without the sonic energetic in it, which is more like that. But we've added the feature of the sonic onto it. So this is a wonderful product. And we've got a bunch of those, about 4 or 5 of them in stock currently. Next one. The Infinite Heart Pendant. Again, it's a tense ring, but obviously in the shape of a heart, right? And we chose that infinite measurement or infinite cubit, right? As I say, it says a singular twisted version, right? There's the double. More that, you wear that as a pendant, right? And it's more about showcasing your infinite potential when you wear it, and for you to be more heart-centered, right? We often use the different terms, right? I've talked about 2 different pathways that we got conditioned to be very mind-oriented, right? Mind-thought mentality, when really our authenticity and infinite nature is the soul. And actually the reason why we came here was based on the soul. Comes through a different pathway. It's heart-filled knowing. And so obviously that's the reference of that, right, in regards to the heart. But it's bringing through your infinite potential. And so we wanted to make a pendant that supported that, but it's also, when we're up here, we're orientating, meaning ever seeking, searching. We're hungry for the answers of the questions we can't seem to understand, right? Because as I say, we live in a world today, predominantly to the internet, with infinite sources of information, but we still lack knowing and understanding of what that information represents. And of course, the heart is what provides the knowing, right? So as long as we're up here, we'll never gain those answers, which simply can be called as the singularity, right? Singularity means answers, and your heart is a singularity. So this is just a wonderful pendant to wear, and actually we've only got one of those left in stock, so it's a lovely little pendant that you can wear. Now we're going to go to this one, right? And this is called the Home Pendant, right? And the Home Pendant has the energetics of, bring this back up, of the earth element, which is up the top there in green, the activation qubit, right? Now, the earth element teaches you grounding, right? And that's mainly, for me, grounding is in particularly getting you back into regulation, right? You hear so much about an unregulated nervous system, right? Which really has become the automatic state of a human, right? When you're mind, thought, mentality, that immediately means you've got an unregulated nervous system. And unregulated means you're imbalanced, right? Where regulate means you're in balance, right? You're centered, right? Be heart-centered. What centered means to be in balance, right? Because that's what the heart brings. It shifts things back into balance. When we're in mind, we shift things out of balance, right? And that's why all the illnesses are connected to that pathway of mind, thought, mentality. It's a byproduct of becoming imbalanced, right? We lose our flow. We talked about flow before. We create a state of the body that gets congested and built up, and that leads to toxicity, which is what illness is. So this helps with that grounding aspect, right? To regulate everything. So it's also regulates hormones, right? And this was really the reasoning why we made this product, which involves, as you can see, a particular symbology or geometry to it, right? Because it's two circles that overlap each other to form a vesica Pisces in the middle. Right? Now that vesica Pisces in the middle with two rings or two circles overlap, that's balance. That's neutrality, right? Where the two rings, right, symbolize each ring by on its own a polarity that is part of duality, right? So duality is when everything's in its imbalanced state, right? So like two, we'll use this, right? Two circles, right? And they're apart from each other, right? They're opposing each other, two polarities. But what the heart does, right? And this, when we live up here, that's what we do. We jump from one polarity to the other, never finding balance. But when we get in the heart, we have the ability to bring those two together, right? And that geometry that I show here is the geometry of conception, right? So the conception of the creation of a new body, right? When for somebody to be conceived and a woman become pregnant, requires that space of two polarities to come together, right? A man and a woman. Now, also that space is required to bring through a soul. Okay, because there's two forms of conception, right? When you're brought into the world, the formation of the body, which at that time when it's being formed, the embryo, it's an empty shell. It doesn't have a driver. And funnily enough, the first organ that's formed in that embryo is the heart. And the heart forms outside of the body. It makes its way in. This is what brings you as a soul consciousness in. This is why the heart's so important. It facilitates what you are. Your experience here, the only reason why you remain here is bound to a heart that beats. Now, why is the heart an organ that only seems to be the only organ that has a rhythm and a rate to it? It's because it facilitates that vortex. That is that carrier wave bringing you here. Because that's what you are. You're not the body. The body's a vehicle to utilize. You are the consciousness, the soul consciousness. So when you wear this product with that earth energetic, right, earth element, the activation energetic, it has an ability to shift things into balance, to regulate. So regulate the nervous system and in particular regulate your hormones. Because what we know at Truly Holistic, what imbalances a human easy? To unregulate the nervous system and unregulate the endocrine system, which are all the glands and organs that create and secrete hormone. Then you've got an individual that is self-sabotaging and using its manifestation ability in a destructive manner. Okay. So, wonderful product. You can wear that as a pendant. Right. Now, next one, right, where that was two rings that overlap. Now we've got three rings, a triquetra that overlap. Right. This is a wonderful product. I'm actually wearing it right now. We've got one I'm wearing right now. Right. Love it. And so this is called the Insight pendant because you know how I mentioned about the heart being, and you can look at the heart as that, right? The heart is to bring those two polarities again to bring balance, right? Shifts things into balance. And your heart is a singularity, right? Well, the other singularity that you are is your place of attention, which is a makeup of the two eyes to see and the one eye to know. So you can see this references that, right? The two eyes to see and the one eye to know, which is the matrix or the pyramid, right, of your place of attention. And your place of attention, your focus is everything, because this is how you apply yourself, your energy. This is how you forge and create reality. Okay, right? This is why there's the saying, where attention goes, energy flows, right? Because what you look at, you apply, invest your energy in, and also you attach your energy to it. Which means if you attach your energy to something, you're choosing and allowing that thing to influence you. Okay. Now, your place of attention is a choice you make in each and every moment you exist. Because why? Because it's what forges your experience, your reality. You're here to create reality, right? In quantum physics, they say for reality to be here, it requires an observer. Why? Because what are they using to observe? Their place of attention. They create it. They forge the reality. Okay. Now, this is so important, right? Now, it's interesting the name we came up with this, right? Insight pendant, is because your two duality eyes visualize your external environment, where the one is your internal sight, and you shorten that insight. And the word insight literally means to have a greater understanding and knowing of what something represents, right? That's a singularity. It's bringing you the answers. And that doesn't work through sight, it works through feel. And that's why that and your heart are dance partners. They are your guides, right, to create and experience reality. Okay. Now, so when I remember making this first time and me wearing this, the clarity that it presented in my head, it's like something in the middle of my head and it just expanded. When I looked outside, looked out the window, the colors looked brighter. The colors were more defined. It was like I was seeing a world that I never saw before, right? So it brings clarity to anything in the head. If you're somebody that feels real clouded in the head, you get headaches, migraines, wonderful product. But also because it works on here, which is often called the pineal gland. The pineal gland secretes melatonin, so it helps with sleep, right, and insomnia issues. Now, the thing about sleep is, melatonin initiates the body's ability for the two eyes to see to close, but this eye remains active for the body to get rest while it sleeps. But what you are as a consciousness never rests, right? So when you go to sleep, that's time that you go back to the quantum where you come from, right? And in fact, you become counsel to other versions of you that are part of your energy signature that are experiencing, forging, creating, and experiencing realities and other realities. Okay, which again connects with that map, right? Because every bubble, which means the word generation's got a number of it, that is a reality or a universe that your energy signature is forging and experiencing, right? In fact, I'm going to bring this one up, which is the map again. But you'll notice the word I've circled there, generation, right? Now, you'll know of the thing, the ability and what we all want, right, is to regenerate, because that's connected to healing, right, is to regenerate, right? Scientists know every 7 years the body renews ourselves, right? So it knows what to do. Our role is to provide, again, the materials for the body to do it and keep doing it. Now, what those materials are is a lot of energy and a lot of flow. And lo and behold, inside of you, you're an infinite source of energy. How about that? As long as you know how to facilitate it, right? If you're mind, thought, mentality, you're not going to facilitate it. So you have to get into the heart. Now, so ascension is to bring forth every aspect of you, which is all those generations, because that's all of you on that tree, right, on that map. and bring it forth to generation 3, right? The reality Earth here. So what does that literally mean? To regenerate. Because if I bring through one generation, I'm bringing through a generation. But if I bring more, there are more regenerations. Wow. Right? Because as it says here, right? Generation means your reality universe. That's your energy signature, your soul consciousness, right? That accesses the interface, right? The body to forge and experience reality, which means gaining meaning, right? That's the whole reason. When you facilitate that wisdom obtained from all those realities, generations, right, of versions of you that are gaining wisdom from its experience, it's like a library you can tap into, right? Every answer to every question's there, as long as you can know how to tap into it. And if you bring all that energy and flow here, what are you enabling? Everything the body needs to regenerate itself. Right? So insight pendant, wonderful. And of course, it brings through the Eye of Agamotto energetics, which is very specific to this, because for the most part, humans, this is dormant, it's deactivated. Why? Because we follow the conditioning, which was seeing is believing. So all we follow is the two eyes to see, right? And we're up in the mind. So therefore, mentality is guiding that, not the heart, not the heart. So therefore, that connection between these two dance partners, the third eye and the heart, 7. This helps to bring it back in. Again, wonderful product. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, let's put these ones aside so I know which ones I've done. Next one. I'll show you a couple of bracelets. So we also sell bracelets. So we've got 2 or 3 of these in stock as well. And these are the same energetic, but you can just see one's a single twist, one's a double twist. Right. So it's what you like. Yeah, I've got one here, right? Which is that one, single twist. Now this is the energetic that this brings through, and I'll show it on here, is the Mjolnir Qubit, which is MJONIR. And that's associated to Thor, right? Who was the god of thunder. And that's the hammer he holds, right? And I remember watching it wasn't the MCU movie, but it was a show. I think it was called Ragnarok. Yeah. And I was watching it, and when he gained he became an interface for the energies of Thor, he gained this incredible strength. And at that time, I wrote a note on my phone when I got into the chart sync. So I was going to ask, is there an energetic that facilitates an enhanced expression of strength, physical strength and balance through the body? And we got an answer, and it was yes. And we got a specific measurement, qubit, which we called Mjolnir. So when you wear this is something I wear all the time. Because hey, every day, everything is this physical experience that we're having, right? We're lifting things, we're grabbing things, we're doing work around the section, we're having to move things and lift things. And when you wear this, it makes it easier because things feel lighter. You're more balanced, you're stronger. Even if it's going to give you 5, 10, 15% more strength, wouldn't you take that? So we recommended this product to athletes, right, who go to the gym, lift weights, things like that. It's wonderful for athletes, but it's wonderful for each one of us, each and every one of us, because, again, as I say, we want to maintain that balance and strength through the body. When I started to wear this, I remember with my son, we were doing playing around as lads, right, father and son, and we were doing arm wrestling. And when I put the product on, he noticed an immediate difference in my strength. It was like he put everything into that arm wrestling, he couldn't budge it. He was like, and I was just with a smile on my face. It was effortless. It was a massive change, and he was like straight away, I want that. So I made him one, and we also actually make this product in a pendant as well that you can wear, just a little tensor ring pendant, but you can also get it in a bracelet. And he noticed massive differences too. He just wanted to lift everything, and he was like, wow, he immediately noticed it. Right. And this was like at the time of a 10 or 11-year-old. Right. So, you want that ability, right? For all ages, like for the elderly, right? That look fragile, right? They're using a walking frame. These kind of things are so important for those types of people, not just the athletes or the muscle men kind of people. Wonderful product, right? So we call that range the lightning range, which is a play on words with lightning, right? Which is associated with 4, right? Thunder and lightning with the Mjolnir, but also becoming enlightened, right? So it's lightning range that you'll see this particular product. Okay. Next one we're going to show is, again, the spherical tools. They're made of 3 tensor rings, but we form them into the sphere. Now, as I said before, right, with the water ring, creates just a column, right, a single twist. But when you form them in a spherical form like that, it's got a sunshine effect 360 degrees. So in a sense, it's a different form of broadcasting tool, right? So what you can do is you can verbalize your intention into it, or put a little intention note and it broadcasts them out. Now, these versions here are the smallest versions of them. You can get these in bigger ones where the sphere's like that big, right? That big or that big, right? But these are the smallest forms, and they do use 2 different energetics. This one is using the water element, right? That we talked about, the water ring before, the Ascension Cubit, and you wear that as a pendant like that, right? And so what it does, it connects into the source of your energy, your soul consciousness. But the way that you can utilize this, and I teach people to do this, is if you're into essential oils, right? You take a cotton swab, you put a few drops of the essential oil, you put the cotton swab in the ring, and you wear that as a pendant. What it does, it broadcasts that out. So if you've got like a chest infection, or you're struggling with your breathing or whatever, and you find an essential oil that can help with that, or let's work on microbes or bacterial infection, you put the essential oils on a cotton swab, put it in there, and it broadcasts that out, and you'll feel your chest just open up and clear out. Right. You can also do that and just place that in your room, so that will broadcast the energy of that essential oil, or whatever, or a little crystal, and it'll broadcast that into the room. Right. This one is made with the infinite measurement, because again, we tend to like the broadcasting tools with that infinite cubit. Why? Because it has a capacity to broadcast it infinitely. Okay. So we call that the generation calibrator. And we've even had people, this one is fused into that spherical form, but a lot of them we make where you can have it in a spherical form, but you can collapse it down so that it's like 3 rings collapsed down like that, and you can wear it as a bracelet or whatever. And so I've got testimonials from people where they've hung this in their car, right, with the intention that they have a path of least resistance. And when they travel and they see all the traffic, they originally, what people might perceive as, oh, we're going to be late, for some reason, all the traffic opened up to them. Everything fell into place. You could say put all the odds in their favor, right? For them to mitigate traffic, for them to mitigate any possibility of having a car accident, right? Remember, you create reality, you forge reality, which doesn't necessarily mean that someone else in your experience is also forging the reality, so they can have an effect on you. But what we've found with that is there's always a choice of allowing, where you allow them to influence your reality. It doesn't have to be that way. But we're all about putting all the odds in your favor. So these wonderful products, you can, of course, you can just put them down and they'll bring those energetics that we talk about. But you can get clever with them. right? If you want to be empowered to play around with it, oh yeah, I'm going to write an intention note here. I'm going to make an intention here. I'm going to hang them up in my room. I'm going to hang them up in my car. Wonderful products that you can get. That's the Generation Calibrator, and that's the Gateway Facilitator if you want to check them out on my product store. Now, we've got a few in stock at the moment that we've made. We also call this the MIDI potential, because why? When you're bringing through the water element, right, its source of its consciousness, what are you doing? You're bringing through every infinite potential of itself. Okay. So there are all the products. Now, what I do want to, I think, no, we've gone through the illustration of all the diagrams I wanted to do, and it's getting a bit lengthy now, the video. So please comment below if you're interested in any of these products. Let me know which one you are. If you want to go and check them on the product store, go to trulyholistic.net/products/ and as I say, most of them are there. And if they're not there, the particular one that you've seen in this video, just comment below and I'll get in touch with you and we'll get it happening for you and we'll get that product out to you. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Please share this on all your social media platforms, because this is essential information. And if you've got a friend or someone that you feel like you could help, even if, let's say, they're a little bit resistant to any form of alternative healing, never doubt the power of planting a seed. It might not be time for them to with that door open to walk through the door, but at some point it will be the right time. So never underestimate that. Until next time, catch you later.